Alright, so here we are. If you are watching this webinar, it's most likely because you've made the decision or you are considering at least moving to Spain permanently. You might be looking for a lifestyle change, to start your remote digital business elsewhere, or even coming to Spain as part of your retirement plan. Whatever the reason may be, I want first of all thank you for choosing Spain, my country, as your next home. I totally understand how important this move is for you, and I really appreciate with all my heart that among all the countries in the world, you've chosen my beloved Spain. My name is Oscar Turegan and I'm the founder and CEO of Emergent Investors Spain. We are one of the leading property buyers agencies specialized in non-resident foreign investors. We provide all the immigration, banking, and real estate solutions that a foreign family will need in order to relocate to Spain. In the last 5 years, we have managed the full relocation, including the property purchase of over 35 American and Canadian families to Spain. So you can be sure that everything you will learn in this webinar is truthful and contrasted information and based on real experiences working as a relocation agent. And believe it or not, this is crucial because nowadays we see a lot of content online that is either made with artificial intelligence or simply outdated information. Planning your relocation correctly is fundamental, especially if your relocation involves a property purchase. The relocation process to Spain is not easy, and a small mistake can cost you a lot, both financially and emotionally. So make sure to hire the right person or agency to help you manage your relocation. Dealing with Spanish bureaucracy, banks, real estate agents, immigration offices, tax administration is not an easy job, and especially if you are not Spanish. But fortunately for you, in this free webinar, I will explain you step by step how to relocate to Spain as an American. The process of setting up a bank account, purchasing a property, sourcing a mortgage, or even buying a car is different depending on your citizenship or your country of residency. Now, this is very important. This video is intended for Americans or residents in the United States of America only. Banking, immigration, and bureaucratic processes differ between countries. So if you do not currently live in the United States of America, this webinar won't be very helpful to you. I also want to point out that if you are planning to buy a property in Spain, either for personal use or for investment purposes, I highly recommend you to request a completely free one-to-one assessment call directly with me to discuss about your investment plan more in detail. You can do that by simply filling the contact form that you will find below this video. In short, in this webinar, we will discuss about the perks of living in Spain, all the visa options for US citizens, and the entire immigration process to Spain, the property purchasing process, and other important practicalities such as getting your NIE certificate, setting up a local bank account, and how taxation works for Americans in Spain. Alright, so let's talk first about why Spain is such a fantastic place to live, as there are truly many reasons why so many Americans are choosing Spain as their new home. Let me give you some highlights based on the feedback that we've got from past American clients. One of the key reasons is climate. If you love sunshine, Spain is definitely the place to be, with over 300 days of sunshine per year in some areas like the Costa del Sol or the Costa Blanca. However, you have to understand as well that weather changes significantly depending on the region of Spain where you are. The northern Atlantic coast of Spain is rainy and cloudy and is more similar to the UK than to the rest of Spain. On the other hand, the Mediterranean coast is totally the opposite. It's sunny year-round and with very mild temperatures. Another important reason is the cost of living. Spain offers a lower cost of living compared to many parts of the US, especially in terms of housing, healthcare, and food. However, this also depends on where you decide to go in Spain. Cities like Madrid, Barcelona, and San Sebastian are actually quite expensive, whereas if you go to the provinces of Valencia, Alicante, or even Malaga, you can enjoy a lower cost of living. Spain boasts a high-quality public healthcare system, but the private healthcare system is also really good and really cheap. To give you an estimation, a full health insurance for a 50-year-old American with no copayments would cost you around $80 per month, or even cheaper depending on the insurance company you work with. Culture is also important. Spain has a rich history, beautiful architecture, and vibrant traditions. There is a lot of things you can do there, whether you love art, food, music, or just the slower pace of life. There is really something for everyone. And finally, location. Spain is the perfect gateway to Europe. Being a country that relies on international tourism, The transportation in Spain is excellent. You have plenty of cheap flights to all European destinations, so it's also an ideal home base for travel lovers. Now let's get into one of the most important topics in this webinar, which is how to legally move to Spain. There are several visa options depending on your situation, so let's break them down. The tourist visa. As you probably know, Americans can stay in Spain as tourists for up to 90 days per semester without a visa. However, if you plan to relocate here permanently, you will obviously need a visa that grants you a residency permit, so the tourist visa will not work. Now, this tourist visa is the best option if you plan to purchase a property to enjoy for a few months a year while not planning to fully relocate to Spain. At Emergent Investors, for instance, we've worked with many American real estate investors who come to enjoy their property in Spain for a few months a year and then turn it into an Airbnb rental while they're not here. If that's what you were looking for, here in Spain, and especially along the Mediterranean coast, you can find fantastic real estate investments. The non-lucrative visa. This is the most popular visa for Americans who plan to retire in Spain. This visa is used by retirees or individuals with sufficient financial resources who can support themselves during their stay in Spain. And the requirements are actually pretty easy to meet. You must demonstrate sufficient financial resources to support yourself and any other dependents without working in Spain. As for 2025, the required amount is around $27,000 per year for the primary applicant, plus $6,500 for every family member added to the same application. You also need to get a private health insurance from a Spanish insurance company that covers all medical care without co-payments. You will see this same requirement in all the visas to Spain, but be careful because a travel insurance will not be accepted. You also have to show evidence of a place to stay in Spain, either through property ownership, in which you would simply show your property deed, or a rental agreement if you decide to rent a property. You must provide as well a police clearance certificate showing that you have no criminal record during the last 5 years in the US. Now, here is very important to mention that the Spanish administration will only accept records issued by the FBI, not the police state department. Moreover, the criminal record must have the apostille and sworn translation for international use. You can easily get this apostille in your state department. For instance, if you live in California, you will have to get it in the California State of Department office. Don't worry because your relocation agent will help you with this. And lastly, you will need a doctor's letter stating that you don't have any health conditions that pose a public health risk. Now, this non-lucrative visa will be granted for 1 year, and after that year, you will have to renew it every 2 years. After 5 years of continuous residency, you will qualify for permanent residency in Spain, so you won't need to renew the non-lucrative visa anymore. The visa application will take from 1 to 3 months, and you will have to do it in the consulate of Spain of your state, so please plan your timing accordingly. The Golden Visa. This visa is basically an investor visa designed for individuals and families willing to invest in Spain, typically through real estate. In fact, over 90% of the Golden Visa applicants got the visa by investing in real estate. This is by far the best visa you can get in Spain, as it offers a fast track to residency with fewer requirements and also includes the possibility for family members to join your application. The Golden Visa application is complex and you will need a professional to help you with it, as in this case the application process is not done in the Consulate of Spain, but in the UGCE office in Madrid. The beauty of this visa is that if you meet all the requirements, you will get the residency permit in no more than 20 days. And this first residency permit will last for 3 years. This is also the only visa that doesn't force you to become tax resident in Spain. It gives you the flexibility of choosing whether you want to move your tax residency to Spain or not. If you don't stay in the country for more than 182 days a year, you will not have to pay taxes on your worldwide income in Spain. Remember also that the US is the only country in the world that taxes its citizens for their citizenship and not for their residency. So as long as you keep holding an American passport, you will have to declare your taxes in the US. However, don't worry much about double taxation because fortunately Spain and the US have a tax treaty to precisely avoid double taxation. Now, the requirements for the Golden Visa are very straightforward. You need to invest a minimum of 500,000 euros in Spanish real estate without a mortgage. Well, you can actually get a mortgage if you want to buy a more expensive property, but the down payment has to be at least 500,000 euros to qualify for the visa. Besides the investment proof, the rest of requirements are exactly the same as with the non-lucrative visa. You have to provide your FBI criminal record with international apostille, your health insurance certificate, and also demonstrate financial means, which are exactly the same as with the non-lucrative visa. Then if you want to add some family members to your application, they have to meet some extra requirements such as being married to you or being dependent financially on you. But this is something that your relocation agent will help you with, so don't worry much about it. The digital nomad visa. This visa was actually introduced last summer and it's designed for remote workers who are employed by a company outside of Spain but wish to live in Spain while continuing their job remotely. You can be perfectly working for your own company, but the key part is that the company has to be foreign and have some track record of at least 3 years. If you plan to set up an LLC in the US only to be able to apply for this visa, your application will be rejected. As for the requirements, you must provide a proof that you work remotely for a company based outside of Spain or as a freelancer serving for international clients. You will also need kind of a sponsor letter from your company stating that they allow you to work remotely from Spain. You will also need to show sufficient income to support yourself in Spain, but in this case, the amount to prove will be slightly lower than in the rest of visas, as they understand that you come here to work, not to retire. The amount to prove is around $2,400 per month. Besides that, all the other requirements are the same as with the other visas. You will have to provide the FBI criminal record with international apostille and their private health insurance certificate. So far, the non-lucrative visa, the golden visa, and the digital nomad visa are the only residency permits we work with at Emergent Investor Spain, but there are other visas that might be the right option for you, which are the student visa, the working visa, or even the family reunification visa. You can check all the information about these visas in the website of the Embassy of Spain in Washington, D.C. Now, before moving to Spain, there is one certificate that you need to get as soon as you can. This is the most important document that you need, which is the famous NIE certificate. The NIE number is not a visa, but rather an ID number used for identification purposes. This number is the equivalent to your ID number in the US. Getting the NIE is one of the first steps you'll need to take when moving to Spain, as it's required for almost all formalities, including purchasing or renting a property, opening a bank account, signing up for services, renting or buying a car, basically for everything. There are two different ways to get your NIE certificate, which is either through the Consulate of Spain of your state where you live or directly in an immigration office in Spain. I strongly suggest to all my clients to get this NIE certificate in the Consulate of Spain while they're still in the US, as it is faster, easier, and cheaper. Immigration offices in Spain are always full and it's very hard to get an appointment. The process itself is very easy. You will only have to request an appointment and get there with your passport, the NIE application form, and a proof of the reason for requesting the NIE, such as buying a property, opening a bank account, or registering for a residency permit. Once you submit your application, you will get the NIE certificate in a PDF format to your email in about 3 to 4 weeks. This NIE number doesn't expire, so that's why the earlier you can get it, the better. Now let's talk about bank accounts in Spain for American citizens. Now here is what I've seen a lot of misinformation online. Setting up a bank account in Spain as a non-resident foreigner is not as straightforward as it seems. Not only every single bank in Spain works differently, but also every single banker within the same bank works differently. Thankfully for you, Americans are highly sought after by Spanish banks, and it is certainly much easier to open a bank account for an American citizen than, for instance, a Chinese citizen. However, you should choose a good bank and have all the financial documentation ready. At Emergent Investor Spain, we have over a dozen collaboration agreements with the largest banks in Spain, and our clients benefit of these agreements by not having to pay any maintenance fees or other hidden fees whatsoever. Be careful with that, because if you go by your own, the banker will always try to give you the worst possible conditions for you because they work on a commission-based system. For instance, if you plan to purchase a property in Spain, you should negotiate with the bank check commission fee. Most property transactions in Spain are still paid with bank checks, and some popular banks like Banco Santander or BBVA can easily charge up to 0.50% of the bank check amount, while others banks charge nothing at all. Keep in mind that if you are purchasing a 1 million euro property, you would be paying 5,000 euros worth of bank check fees, which is absurd. So please be careful with that. On regards to the documentation that they will need from you to set up your bank account, you will have to show your passport, your NIE certificate, and one pay stub or your last tax return in the US. They will also ask for your social security number in the US as well. If you work with a relocation agency, you will most likely be able to set up your bank account online, but only a few banks operate remotely for the setup process, so keep that in mind. The best banks at this moment that I could recommend for Americans are Bankinter, Banco Sabadell, BBVA, and CaixaBank. However, remember that it's more important the banker you work with than the bank itself. Alright, so now let's move to the most important and complex step of your relocation, which is buying a property in Spain. Real estate is our core service at Emergent Investor Spain. We are licensed real estate buyer agents specialized in transactions with non-resident foreign buyers. Now, first of all, you have to determine your budget and financing. Keep in mind that the closing costs depend greatly in the region of Spain where the property is located, but you can expect to pay an extra 10 to 15% on top of the purchase value. You might also want to consider financing options, as Spanish banks offer pretty good mortgages to American citizens. Interest rates here in Spain are much lower than in the US, and you can get a loan up to 70% of the property's value. However, I'm very sorry because I cannot be very precise on the mortgage conditions because it all depends on your age and financial profile. So the best thing you can do is to contact us directly and we will analyze your personal situation. At this point, we would already have our NIE certificate and our bank account fully operational. And now what you would have to do is to look for a real estate buyer's agent with experience with American clients. Your real estate agent will give you professional advice and help you with all the location and property research. In terms of real estate websites, the most popular in Spain is by far Idealista. I highly recommend to take a look at Idealista on a recurring basis to get a good understanding of your selected real estate submarket and your possibilities. Keep in mind also that unlike in the US where real estate transaction records are public and everyone has access to this information, in Spain the transaction records are private. So in Idealista you will only see the listing price but not the actual market value of the property. That's why it's so important to work with a local agent who understands the market conditions and has the ability to analyze the actual market value of the property. In less efficient markets, you will see how sellers' agents list their properties up to 30% above their market value, whereas in other more liquid locations, like could be Madrid City, they list it more or less at their market value. In short, just don't trust the listing price. You have to do your own market research and due diligence with a professional who protects your interests as a foreign buyer. Once you find the perfect property, you will have to negotiate the price and terms with the seller's party and make an offer. Here in Spain, we always negotiate. Once you've determined what's the actual market value of the property you want to buy, don't be afraid to negotiate the price and conditions. You always have to try at least to match the buying price with the market value to avoid overpaying for a property. If the property is accepted, you will have to sign a reservation contract in which you confirm the intent to purchase the property and the seller agrees to remove the property from the market. The reservation fee is usually between 3,000 and 6,000 euros. And now comes a crucial step, which is doing a proper legal due diligence on the property. At Emergent Investor Spain, we have our own team of independent real estate lawyers that carry all the legal due diligence for us. The lawyer will check for debts or liens on the property, confirm the property's ownership and zoning status, and ensure compliance with building permits and regulations. We also bring our architects to the property to do a full inspection to make sure that there are no hidden construction defects. If everything is in order, then you will sign the deposit contract, which is basically a private purchase contract with the seller. This contract includes the agreed price, terms, and the completion deadline in which you will have to pay the pending amount in the notary. The deposit contract requires a payment of around 10% of the property price. And now after signing this contract is when we can go to the banks and look for the best financing options for you to finalize the purchase. Normally the deposit term is around 3 months, which is enough to source a mortgage. And the final step is signing the property deed in the notary's office, which formalizes the transfer of ownership. The pending amount of the purchase price is transferred to the seller at this time, and once signed, you will receive a copy of the title deed. The notary then will file the original copy of the property deed to the land registry office. And here I also want to point out that regardless your nationality, when buying a property in Spain, there are a number of closing costs, which are your real estate agent fees, the mortgage brokerage fee, the lawyer's fee, the property transfer tax, and the notary and the registry fees. All these fees are paid at the end. When buying a second-hand property, you have to pay a property transfer tax of between 6 to 10% of the purchasing value depending on the region where the property is located. However, if the property is first-hand, instead of paying the property transfer tax, you will have to pay the VAT tax, which is at 10% regardless of the region. The real estate agent fees are between 2 to 4% of the purchase value. At Emergent Investors, we also include the lawyer service in our base fee, but most agencies don't include it, and that's an extra cost of around 1%. The notary and registry fees depend on how you negotiate this clause with the seller in your deposit contract, but normally both fees together around 0.3 to 0.5% of the purchasing value. In short, we can say that the closing costs are between a 10 to 15% of the purchase price. On the other hand, I have good news for you because unlike in the US, ongoing expenses for your property in Spain are very low. Property tax, for instance, is based on the cadastral value of the property, but for an average apartment in a city, you can expect to pay between 300 to 500 euros per year. Whereas if you have a villa, you can expect to pay around 1,000 euros per year, something like that. Regarding insurances such as a home insurance or health insurance, obviously here in Spain it's much cheaper as well than in the US. For an average apartment, you can expect to pay around 500 euros per year on a very good home insurance, which I recommend buying it from the same bank of your mortgages. In exchange, they will give you a reduction on the interest rate of the mortgage. Now, in terms of taxes, navigating Spain's tax system can be very challenging, especially if you are American. Your tax liability in Spain hinges on your residency status. Spain classifies taxpayers as tax residents or non-residents, and this classification influences what income is taxable and at what rates. You become tax resident in Spain when you spend more than 183 days per year in the country, or your main professional activity or economic interest are located in Spain. For tax residents, Spain, as well as other European countries, has a progressive tax rate with income tax at rates from 19% to 47% depending on your income level and the region you live in. If you're a non-resident, you are only liable for Spanish tax on income earned in Spain. Non-European residents are taxed at a flat rate of 24% on Spanish source income, not profit, whereas European residents are taxed at a flat rate of 90% on profit, which includes all the expenses and deductions. Thus, the effective tax rate for European residents on income is much lower. For Americans, one of the most crucial aspects of understanding Spanish taxes is the double taxation agreement that Spain has with the US to avoid or reduce dual taxation on income. This tax treaty basically outlines which country has the primary right to tax certain types of income, like employment or pension income. Lastly, Spain has a very interesting and special tax regime, popularly known as the Beckham Law, that is designed for foreign professionals moving to Spain for work. Under this special tax regime, eligible individuals can live in Spain while being taxed at a flat rate of 24% on income up to 600,000 euros per year. So instead of paying a progressive tax rate that goes up to 47%, you would only be paying a flat tax of 24% for 6 consecutive years. Alright, so with all that said, and unfortunately in this webinar I cannot cover all these complex topics in depth since each person is different and it's best to receive personalized advice. However, we have covered the most important aspects that you should consider before relocating to Spain. If you have already made the decision to leave America and come to Spain to establish your new home here, do not hesitate to contact us by clicking the contact button that you will see below, and I will be happy to have a free one-to-one assessment call with you to discuss more in depth about your investment plan in Spain. Thank you very much for watching.